Winter Roses, Summer by fairytalelovr. Chapter 44. The Fire Within. Daenerys sat up in the narrow bed from a jump, gasping for air, disturbed with the nightmare. "A vision again, my lady?" the Red Priestess asked, standing by the window. Dany looked at her, trying to get her breathing under control. "The same vision, again." "All of it?" Melisandre asked, and she nodded. "Tell me again, my lady. A small detail might help." Dany exhaled, sitting up with her legs crossed, rubbing her eyes. She had been having the same vision every night for weeks now, starting a few days before Jon's raven about his mad expedition beyond the wall came. A few days later, when she was still raving and ranting in fury about irresponsible mad husbands, Melisandre Overshy had arrived, speaking tales of promised princes and princesses and visions in the flames. When she got to the vision bit, Dany felt safe enough to confide about her recurring nightmares. "It started as it always does," Dany said, "a blue winter rose in a river, following the course down to the sea, where someone in a ship picks it up. I can't see whom. And then this winter rose grows, then shrinks and dies. Then another winter rose grows from a chink in a wall of ice. A burst of fire, and a winter rose lost amid snow. Then the winter rose again in the wall of ice, shrinking and shriveling. Then fire. So much fire. Fire like I've seen before in a dream with a dragon. And that's when I wake up." Melisandre frowned. There was no new detail to be had. "I have had a new vision in the flames, my lady. Knives hidden in the dark. That's all I can see." Dany sighed. "What does it all mean?" "Has the urge changed?" "No," Dany said, throwing herself back on the pillows. "A blue winter rose growing in the chink of a wall of ice? How many walls made up of ice were there in the known world? I still feel the urge, the calling. I'm meant to be there." The Red Priestess smiled. "We shall arrive in 2 days, my lady. The captain just told me. You should rest until then." Dany nodded as Irri came into the cabin and dismissed the Red Woman. Uncle Benjen had been silently furious, a cold fury to cause envy to the coldest of winters, while Aunt Isla had been true to her Dornish blood and raised quite the heated argument. In the end, little Adam had cried, making Rickard join him. Lyanna had thrown a tantrum to shake the entire castle. Everybody was hoarse from screaming, and the Lady Lyanna, their second best ship, set sail towards Eastwatch by the Sea, with Dany in the main cabin. The voyage had been calm so far, but in a ship filled with men loyal to her, Dany hadn't expected anything different. The arrival at the wall promised a whirlwind of adventures, most she was definitely not looking forward to. But she had brought a small army of men, 20 swords, so she was certain she would not be in any danger. Now dressed, she went up to the deck, and they were nearly beneath the tall structure of the wall. "Quite the sight, isn't it?" Sir Davos said, coming closer. "Yes, it's marvellous." Dany replied. "I don't believe in much, my lady," the knight said, "but you could almost feel the magic in this place." Dany smiled softly. "Yes, I can feel it too. You know, you didn't have to come, Sir Davos." "Well, I figured a trip to see the wall was something different. Besides, I was—" "Jon's deal with Stannis Baratheon was for you to come and help us settle the navy, not ferry his panicking wife across the north." He laughed. "If I may be so bold, my lady, you have nothing of a panicking, empty-headed highborn. I'm here because I want to be here." "Good." Dany smiled widely now. "I feel safer like this." They both turned back to the wall in a companionable silence. Daenerys looked at the courtyard around them as her group dismounted. The commander of Eastwatch by the Sea had been uncomfortable to see her and Melisandre, until Dany had said she had brought food and ale for all her soldiers and to share. The man had brightened up in a trice, and had been more than eager to allow her to borrow wagons to bring the loads to Castle Black. Without knowing how long Jon was going to be gallivanting beyond the wall, and consequently how long she and her 20 swords would need to impose on the Night's Watch, Sir Davos had suggested, and Dany had brought a large supply. She only hoped whoever was left in charge was thankful enough for the ale to let her stay.
"Lady Starling,"
called an unpleasant voice, though coated in honey,
"you brighten the place with your presence."
She turned to see an older man coming in greeting. He was smiling, and the gesture seemed so alien to him that his face was completely contorted. "I'm sorry for imposing, Sir—"
"Sir Alliser Thorne, my lady. I'm the Master-at-Arms, and currently the acting Lord Commander, while Lord Commander Mormont is beyond. But come, let us talk inside, where it's warm by the fire."
Dany felt a shiver go down her spine, but then Sir Davos's comforting presence stepped up beside her.
"I'm assuming you have a place where we can store the goods we've brought, and to house our men?"
The acting Lord Commander soured visibly.
Of course. "You three," he called, "show the men to their wing, and 2 of you can show where the pantry is."
Orys and 3 other guards stepped forward at Dany's back, but the rest of them followed the stewards to their rooms. A steward, around 5 and 10 years old, but small and frail-looking, came rushing from inside. "Sir Alliser?" "Lady Starling, Maester Aemon says he understands you must be weary from your travels, but he wishes to speak with you with great urgency." He stopped, then paled, seeming to remember the second part of the message. "It is not bad news, my lady, but he wishes to speak with you as soon as it is convenient." Dany smiled. "It is convenient now, if you'd lead the way. Unless Sir Alliser—"
A big man to the side chortled. Dany saw he was missing an arm. "Not even Sir Alliser, from the top of his arrogance, would dare refuse Maester Aemon." "You should think better of your place, Noy," Sir Alliser sneered. "Aren't you ashamed to even be in her presence?" The man wasn't coward. "No, I'm not. I make weapons, sir, not yield 'em. Shouldn't let the Maester waiting." And with that he turned around and left. "That's Donal Noy?" Sir Davos asked, and Sir Alliser only nodded.
"Who is Donal Noy?"
Dany asked. "Armourer," the Master-at-Arms replied. "He armed Storm's End before he lost his arm in the siege to the castle during the rebellion, and ended up here at the wall. He's the one who forged that cursed hammer."
Dany stiffened. A prince falling in the river, rubies exploding from his caved-in chest, and with his last breath he spoke the name of a woman. "I would like to see the Maester now." The young steward nodded, leading them through the castle to the library. "Lady Starling, Maester," he announced. The room was darkish, though there were several recently lit candles burning. Dany felt warmth in her heart as she saw the elderly man standing up. It was the same warmth she always felt when around Jon, Lyanna, and little Adam. What made her frown? Maester Aemon stood up and turned to them, an easy smile in his wrinkled face.
"You may go," he said. "I wish to speak to the lady alone." "My lady," Orys protested.
"Wait outside, Orys. No harm will come to me here," Dany commanded.
Aemon chuckled. "Oh, the hot-headedness of youth. It gladdens my heart that you have such loyal men, Lady Starling, but I quite doubt I could hurt you, even if the thought ever crossed my mind."
The guard and the steward left, and the two were quite alone. "Who are you?" Dany asked. I feel like I know you."
"Dragon blood calls for dragon blood, my dearest great-grandniece. Magic runs in our veins, and magic recognizes magic."
Dany gasped. "You're Aemon Targaryen!"
"I was, once, before I gave it up for a chain and a black robe. I gave up the throne in favor of my brother, your great-grandfather."
"Aegon V, the Unlikely?"
"Yes, I see Lord Stark gave you a good education, regardless of recent history."
"Maester Luwin always said history is history, and a rebellion doesn't change it. Lord Stark would never deny what happened. He taught us that a hard truth is better than a pretty lie.
The Maester smiled. Lord Stark keeps growing in my esteem lately, and I am so very glad for it.
They both chuckled.
I am old, niece. Old and blind. Would you allow me to meet you properly?
Of course, Danny smiled, closing the distance between them and raising his hands to her face. Maester Aemon smiled, tears falling from his eyes.
I thought our house was gone, my sweet child. Then I had heard that you had survived, that the usurper intended to shame you and our house by marrying you off to a northern bastard. But your husband is honourable, and better man than most, so I dare say you are very lucky in this regard. The usurper's plan failed. The dragons still live, and I hear they shall live on. 2 children, John told me.
Yes, and may the gods bless us even more. Danny looked around at the insurmountable amount of books. Uncle, what can you tell me about dragons? Maester Aemon reached for his chair, and Danny helped him to it, taking the one next to his.
A quick question. I have read a lot when my eyes allowed me to, but like you, I have been born in a time without dragons.
Maester Lewin said Targaryens tried to bring back dragons for generations. Why did they fail? How can we succeed?
Aemon frowned, reaching for her hand. It was my belief our last egg was lost after the tragedy at Summerhall. And even if not, the usurper would not allow you to reach for one. He would have seized it. But you speak as if you have had an egg.
I do, Danny said with a smile. I have a few, actually, she declared, and the Maester gasped. I got 3 as bride gifts. Eggs from the Shadowlands beyond Ashai, that were said to have turned to stone with the ages.
And have they?
No, I can feel warmth from inside them, and they have grown warmer after my son was born and I almost died. John said he can feel their warmth as well.
Maester Aemon smiled widely. It was written in scrolls we had saved in Dragonstone that only dragon blood filled their life. Dragons are magic, my child, and until they are hatched, nothing can snuff out their flame. They are warmer, and the more recent they are, and it is believed they grow ever warmer when it is time to hatch.
Our lands sit on a volcano, Uncle.
John told me that it has recently erupted.
It has. John doesn't know it yet, because it was discovered after he left. But the eruption unearthed more eggs. They are warmer. They feel alive.
Have you tried to hatch them, Daenerys?
Not properly. Sometimes they call to me, and I sit with them by the fire. She took a deep breath. Ever since my almost death, I don't know how to say it.
With words, niece. I shan't judge you.
The egg called to me, and I placed it into the fire. Then I held it in the fire, she told, and the Maester frowned. I was not burnt, Uncle. I could hold my hand over this candle right now, and I would feel only warmth.
The Maester gasped. Where is the candle? He asked, and Danny guided his hand.
Then she gasped as well. He held his old, wrinkly, frail-looking hand right through the flame.
I told you, child. Magic runs in our veins. The blood of the dragon calls for the blood of the dragon. The dragon in the egg calls for you. You must set him loose.
Ned felt his stomach sink as he saw his brother's stormy face when they neared the port.
Looks like something is wrong, Alice said quietly at his side. Aye, it does, he agreed.
Benjen greeted the girls and Rickon lovingly, and smiled at the baby. So this is my youngest nephew? He asked, reaching over and shaking a tiny hand. Yes, it is, Ella said with a smile, holding Cragen up. Sweetie, say hello to Uncle Benjen. The boy smiled, clapped, and reached for Benjen.
I see you're not as shy as your father, you lucky boy. They all laughed as Ned rolled his eyes. Why don't we go inside the guard tower? Wait until they get the boats upriver ready. From the way Arya's eyes narrowed, she found it extremely suspicious, but thankfully she just went along. They crossed the way to the guard tower, and Ned allowed Sansa, Arya, Winifred, Willa, Rickon and Kraken to stay outside, enjoying the nice day, overseen by a nurse. What happened? Ned demanded as soon as the door closed, leaving only him, Benjen and Ella in the room. I thought I shouldn't send you another raven once I got your message you were already on your way north. Daenerys didn't like the idea that Jon went beyond the wall. She went after him. She did what? Ned exclaimed. Why? She can't possibly hope to go after him beyond the wall. I don't think she even thought about going beyond the wall herself. But she said she would rather wait in Castle Black than wait all the way down here. And you let her go? Ned asked furiously. What would you have me do, big brother? Lock her in her chambers? Chain her to her bed? She is Lady Starling. I can counsel her, but she can make her own decisions, especially since Jon left her in charge. Ned groaned in frustration, passing a hand through his hair. How long now? She's surely at Castle Black by now, and she took 20 men with her. At least that, Ned huffed. What news do we have of what's happening in Castle Black? Why have they decided to cross? Wildlings are crossing south more and more, and honestly, I doubt Jon would lie about something like this. Is this about the White Walkers? Ned cut in. Robb said in his raven that a reanimated corpse, tried to kill the Lord Commander, but Jon stopped it. Aye, that is what Jon wrote. He said they needed to go north to treat with this self-entitled King Beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder, to bring the wildlings south. And that's all he had to say about that. To bring the wildlings south? Ned exclaimed. What madness is happening beyond the wall that my sons have entertained such a recklessness? White Walkers, apparently, Ella said, shocked. Ned exhaled deeply, beginning to pace. She reached out to him, entwining their fingers with a soft smile. Just don't do anything harsh, would you? He blushed deeply. With Robb and Jon beyond, I won't promise not to cross. I wouldn't ask such a promise from you, Ella said, her smile turning sad. Just come back. Drag Jon, Robb and my brother with you, but come back. Benjen fidgeted, uncomfortable. I'll just check on the children, make sure the boats upriver are ready for you. For them? Ned asked, frowning and turning around. Don't worry, love. I'm sure Isla and I can make sure the castle still stands when you come back. I'm leaving Rhalos and his guards behind, if you don't mind bringing your own, Benjen said. They know the keep. They'll keep them safe. You're right, but I've brought 50 men. I'm leaving 10 behind. Ned decided. Not Jory, Ella said. Jory is coming with you. Ned turned around to her, but she had that determined look on her face that he knew arguing with would be difficult and most likely pointless. Besides, she and the children would be safe inside a well-protected keep amongst family. Fine, he relented, but Alan is staying with you. Chuckling, Benjen left the room to check up on the boats that would take Ella and the children upriver, and the ones to take him, Ned and the men back to the ship. Their journey back to Craster's Keep wasn't without its troubles, as it was to be expected. They were ambushed by a large group of whites on their 6th night, but with everyone armed with torches, the casualties were kept to a minimum. Also, it was obvious that the White Walkers were wary of their unique weapon capable of hurting them, so they had only seen the foot soldiers, no lieutenants. They arrived, after a small attack, with less of a third of their original group. Only Leeds and another guard were left of the 5 Jon had come with, and the Stark group had lost 3 out of their 10. Theon had gotten a nasty cut on his side that Sam had struggled with, and they had to hold the Ironborn down so he could cauterize the wound. You're staring too much, Sam, Jon said as they got settled. I wonder where all of them are, really. Wait for her to find you, Sam, Robb counselled.
but Sam was restless. Finally, one of the women passed by, and he questioned her. "There's a birth now," the woman muttered before running away. Sam felt a rock sink in his stomach. Was he too late? He managed to locate the hut at the back of the keep, where the screaming and confusion was taking place. He heard Gilly's voice. "What is it? Is it a boy or a girl?" She was panicked. "It's a boy," a sorrowful voice announced. Gilly began to cry, and Sam couldn't help himself. He pushed the curtain aside and stepped into the room. She saw him, and her eyes shone with utter desperation. The other women all scrambled away, leaving them alone. "Gilly," he said quietly, "what happens to the boys?" "The free folk follow the old gods of the forest," she answered hoarsely. "But Craster doesn't. He worships demons of the night, and the boys are sacrifices to them." Sam felt like a White Walker just showed up and frozen the air around them. How long until Craster takes him?" "Tonight," she replied. "Once it's dark enough, he takes the boys and leaves them in the woods. Come morning, they're gone." "How long until you can walk?" She meant to stand up. "Right now!" She winced, lying back down. "Hey, take it easy. I'll get us a satchel with enough food, and I'll come back for you. It's barely midday, and if we leave just a bit before dark, we'll be on our way to Castle Black by the time Craster comes for the baby." Her eyes shone with hope, though the feeling was alien to her. Then she nodded and blinked, and Sam saw pessimism take her over. "Gilly, look at me. I will come back in just a bit. We will leave. We will get to Castle Black, and we will move further south. I promise." She nodded, but Sam could see she was afraid to hope. Looking at the place around him, he could understand her just fine. He left the little hovel and went to where their group was gathered. Theon was thankfully not there, and John, Rob and Adam were only too eager to help, especially once they heard about the sacrifice bit. "You take the Starling Guards and head south," John said. "Don't forget to keep lanterns on you. Go straight to Castle Black. Walk as fast and as long as you can each day. We should be only a day behind you, but we'll stop at Whitetree. However, if you're in Castle Black, there's no way Craster can try anything." "We should try to get the other women out as well," Adam said. "Aye," Rob agreed. "Craster won't stop raping them. So even if he gives up the chase on Gilly's son, there might be others. I don't know what the others do with the boys, but whatever it is, I don't want them having it." "If he weren't an old man, I'd challenge him to single combat," Adam muttered, "but he is, so it wouldn't be fair or honourable." Everyone chuckled. "Sam, you should take the daggers, the horn and the inscription to Maester Aemon," John said. "Use the time until we get there to try and figure out what it means. And figure out why they use daggers made up of glass." Sam agreed, and added the items to his satchel. They'd need to travel light if they were to walk a lot and fast, so he only took them, a small bottle of the pain potion, and food, leaving his other medicines and things to be brought in the sleds. It was just before sunset, when he was trying to get the little hovel, and thankfully, one of the Black brothers provided a welcome distraction by getting into an argument with Craster over his stinginess with food. In the mess that erupted, Sam took Gilly and the baby, and they slipped away unnoticed, with the other two guards in the darkening woods. Rob, John, Adam, and even Theon were trying to figure out a way to create a diversion to allow Sam and Gilly to escape. They knew once Craster realised it was a trick, he would be furious, and never allow the watch to return. However, the Lord Commander had already said he had no intention of coming back beyond the wall, and, if it all worked out with Mans Raider, there would be no need to ever use this hellhole as a refuge ever again. "Where's that useless girl? Is she still moaning in pain?" Craster asked, and the 5 women about trembled. "Answer me!" he yelled, startling them. "She's recovering. The baby was born yesterday," answered the oldest. "Well, then what is it? Another wife for me?" He laughed loudly, quite into his cups already. The other women were visibly nervous, but he was too drunk to notice, and the oldest wife seemed to have it under control. "It was a girl, husband, but she was stillborn." "Ugh!" he exclaimed, throwing his cup across the room. The youngest girl, around 2 and 10, went to fetch it and disappeared into the darkness instead of returning. "Useless wench! Where is she? Snivelling and crying?" "She didn't make it. Bled out," the woman answered stoically, and John was shocked. Craster didn't have time to reply, though, as the keep had descended into chaos. 2 of the men of the Night's Watch had let their happiness with the danger and scarcity of food take the best of them, and had confronted Craster on the quality and amount of food offered. Mormont tried to interfere, getting his men under control, but the 2 rebels weren't listening and refused to take any orders. It nearly ended in tragedy, and only Adam's timely interruption saved Mormont from a knife in one of his malcontent men. Rast and the other, Carl Tanner, succeeded in getting past Rob and John with dirty tricks, and got his knife through Craster's chin, killing him. Rast took one of the wives as a hostage and managed to escape, giving that Adam would never risk a woman. He didn't go far, though, as Ghost cut his escape short, dragging his carcass back to the keep. Tanner also didn't go far, as John recovered and was able to subdue him, and for daring to raise a knife to his Lord Commander, he was sentenced to death. The rest of the unhappy brothers retired quickly, so as to avoid the same fate, ending the mutiny before it really took place. It was well past dark when Sam, Gilly, and the guards found another abandoned village. The guards immediately went to gather enough wood for a fire, and Sam went to set up some of the bedrolls. "How are you feeling?" he asked when Gilly returned from the partition of the back of the little house, where she had gone to feed the baby. "Tired and sore," he answered with a shrug. "I'm sorry," Sam said sheepishly. "I wish we could wait for you to recover." No, we need to walk." "How much further?" "A few days. The more we walk, the faster we'll get there." "I'm sorry, Gilly." "It's all right." She waved his concern off. "I just want to get there." They frowned when the sound of several crows cawing. Then there was a crack outside, and Sam turned to the door. "Leeds?" he called. "What is it?" There was another crack, and then the sound of a sword unsheathed, and steel on steel. Sam cursed under his breath, looking for a weapon, and finding the short sword he had taken in haste. He reached for a torch, happy that at least they would have that, and rummaged through his satchel for anything else that might help, finding only the strange dragon-glass daggers. He took one, and turned at the door just as it burst open. Gilly screamed, the baby began crying, and Sam paled. Reading about it in books, hearing John's description, neither of it had prepared him for the shock of seeing a White Walker. It had a cruel face, etched in ice, and its smile upon seeing the baby in Gilly's arms was terrifying. "Stay back!" Sam exclaimed. The terrible smile on the White Walker's face grew even more sinister. The crows were still cawing outside, causing quite the ruckus, and the other raised its hand almost in mockery to hold the trembling point of Sam's sword. The regular steel crumbled to dust, and the smile on the creature's face only grew, as it stepped forward, with a simple backhanded move, threw Sam across the little room. No, leave us alone!" Gilly yelled. Sam stood back up in a daze. His ears were ringing over the sound of the birds outside, and all he could process was the fear in Gilly's voice and face, the creature coming ever closer to her. He took the dragon-glass dagger, the only weapon at hand, and didn't even stop to think it would do another failure. He just threw himself forward. "Stay away from them!" he exclaimed as well, burying the dagger in the White Walker's back. The creature stiffened and wavered on its feet. Leeds rushed into the hut, his sword frozen away as well, though he held the pommel out of habit, and stopped short as he witnessed the bizarre scene. The White Walker screeched in pure agony, falling to its knees and becoming even more like to ice. And suddenly, with a last agonizing scream, It threw its head back and burst into 1,000 shards of ice. Sam could only watch as the black dagger fell to the floor with a dull thud.
Come on, we have to move, Leeds said, stepping into the room. Come on, Lord Tarley, we have to go.
Gilly regained movement and started to walk forward, jarring Sam into standing up as well, going to pick up their satchels. The guard picked up the fallen dagger and threw his useless sword aside, taking 2 torches with him.
The other guard is dead, he announced. We have to burn him in the way, and hope these creepy crows won't harm us. Come on, we have to walk more. I'm sorry, my lady, but we can't stay here.
You're right, Sam agreed in a daze. Let's move. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one.
Oh my boy, that was a dramatic one.
So Dany's at the wall and met Maester Aemond. And also Sir Alistair meeting Dany. Never seen that before in a fanfic. And not to mention, Sam's so cool. Yes, first man in years. Well, second in this timeline, but still, I love that. And they're figuring out that Dragonglass does the tricks, so that's another advantage in their arsenal. And also, can we just talk about how strong Gilly is? I've never given birth, but I hear it's not fun for the lady, and she must be in so much pain right now, but she's just like, no, gotta get my baby somewhere safe. And I can appreciate that. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.